Welcome to this final short topic for Unit 3, Topic 3.7, Fitness. One of the most well-known phrases attributed to Charles Darwin, sometimes called the father of evolution, is survival of the fittest. In fact, not only is that phrase incorrectly attributed to Darwin, it is also frequently misused and almost always misunderstood. People generally think of fitness as something physiological, strength-based, or the ability to dominate other individuals. Rather, fitness is a measure of reproductive ability, an individual's likelihood to survive and pass on its genes to offspring. While fitness does take into account physical ability, it also includes aspects of an organism's characteristics like how it makes use of resources in its habitat and if it can avoid detection and capture by predators. Therefore, fitness is a quantifiable variable in individual organisms. We can observe which variations provide greater advantage at survival and reproduction, measurable by the creation of healthy offspring. Although many more aspects of evolution and natural selection will be studied in much greater detail in a later unit, we'll be exploring the idea of fitness as it relates to the transformation and use of different energy sources and the diversity of metabolic pathways. As we have already seen in this unit, biochemical reactions are never standalone, independent of other reactions. Metabolic pathways are complex and interlinked. They are always part of a complex series of reactions where reactants aren't useful to just a single exclusive reaction. Additionally, the products of a reaction act as the reactants for subsequent ones. Between cell types and even different organisms, the outputs of biochemical reactions can behave as the required inputs for a different cell type. This model shows a few of the chemical reactions that we have studied in this class. This molecule here is G3P, the same G3P that is the output of the Calvin cycle in photosynthesis, and the same G3P that results at the end of the energy investment phase of glycolysis. That must mean that this set of molecules are the sugar inputs of glycolysis, such as glucose, which, along with galactose, is a component of lactose. Over here is fructose, and an isomer of glucose that can be converted for use to create G3P. But another sugar connected over here is a 5-carbon sugar called ribulose, a chemical cousin of the ribose found in RNA. Animals, fungi, and bacteria store a polysaccharide of glucose called glycogen. Glycogen is important as a short-term energy store and is an integral part of fatty acid synthesis to store lipids in the form of triglycerides in adipose or fat tissue. From G3P, pyruvate can be derived. Pyruvate is linked not only to the citric acid cycle, but to a variety of amino acids as well. Even the multi-protein complex of the electron transport chain in mitochondria is represented. Hopefully, this helps to promote at least a little bit of an appreciation for the complex interconnectedness of just a few biochemical pathways. Having the ability to take in, process, and produce a variety of molecules means that organisms can interact in more complex ways with their environment. It means that organisms would have the access to take advantage of a greater collection of resources, and therefore have a higher likelihood of survival were any one or even a few of them to become scarce. In animals, for example, external stimuli such as odorants and flavors result in changes to cells involved in smell and taste, respectively. Odorant molecules traveling in the air bind to protein receptors in the cell membranes of cells that line the sinuses. This triggers a series of changes within a variety of related cells that provides information to the brain that can process information about the odorants being detected. The sense of taste is very similar to smell, both being types of chemoreception, basically chemical detectors. Taste buds, primarily located on the tongue, have protein receptors to which molecules that are sweet, salty, bitter, sour, or umami will bind. Just as with olfaction, information is sent to the brain about what chemicals are present. And in actuality, an animal's sense of taste is much less discriminatory than smell, so most of our ability to detect the flavors present in our food is thanks to being able to smell it. This explains why food often tastes bland when our sinuses are congested. Both of these senses are important in an organism's survival. They are protective because they confer the ability to determine what food may or may not be safe to eat. Those with foul odors or unpleasant tastes act as a warning that it may be unwise to consume them. Photosynthesis requires light. Visible light is a combination of a variety of wavelengths, from red around 740 nanometers to violet just below 400 nanometers. Photosynthetic organisms have evolved pigments to take advantage of the wavelengths of light available to them in their environment. Cyanobacteria, whose ancestors originated at least 2.1 billion years ago and may have existed 600 million years before that, are best known as the aquatic blue-green photosynthetic organisms. However, depending on what colors of light are available to them, cyanobacteria can alter the concentration of pigments they produce and use. In instances where more red wavelengths of light are present, green pigments would dominate, allowing the red to be absorbed and green reflected. Conversely, with greater intensity of green wavelengths, more red pigments are produced, reflecting the red and making use of the greens. As a matter of fact, cyanobacteria are known to produce pigments that range from greens to pinks to oranges. Land plants make use of various pigments as well, but sometimes serve a protective function. This kind of protection is an important survival strategy. We generally think of land plants as being green. They therefore reflect the greens and absorb reds, blues, and purples. But for young, still developing parts of a plant, absorbing that much energy could be damaging. So many plants will produce new leaves with a higher concentration of red pigments. This helps the more fragile leaves to avoid being subjected to too much light energy, as they are not yet fully developed. Because light is comprised of different wavelengths with different energies, some are able to penetrate water more deeply than others. Lower energy wavelengths, like those on the red and orange side of the spectrum, don't travel as deeply as the higher energy blue and purple ones do. For photosynthetic organisms that live deeper than red or orange can reach, having green pigments that reflect green would be a waste of potentially useful light energy. So, what photosynthetic pigments might we expect to find being used by organisms residing in deeper water? Red ones. Since red light isn't reaching those depths, pigments like these allow organisms to take advantage of the green and blue light that is. And with that, Unit 3 has come to a close. Thank you for watching, and take care.